mayor in upstate New York says he's ready to marry same-sex couples starting at noon today. The mayor of New Paltz will begin marrying gay and lesbian couples, defying New York state law. At least a dozen couples are expected to tie the knot there. Mayor Jason West says he's motivated by the president's decision to amend the Constitution to ban same-sex marriage.
If anything, it gave me even more conviction. We saw on Wednesday the first time a president has proposed a constitutional amendment that would restrict the freedom of Americans.
San Francisco at the eye of the storm over same-sex marriage. Thousands of couples have made the trip to San Francisco to say I do. Among them, Rosie O'Donnell and her longtime partner, Kelly Carpenter. After exchanging vows, O'Donnell lashed out at the White House.
We were both inspired to come here after the sitting president said the vile and vicious and hateful comments he did on Tuesday. It inspired myself, my brand new wife.
Joining us with more on the marriage debate, Karel, the author of You Can't Say That and a San Francisco talk show host, and Genevieve Wood from the Family Research Council. Welcome to both of you. Karel, I don't know if you want to defend what Rosie O'Donnell just said, but what did President Bush say that was so vile, vicious, and hateful?
Well, those words came from Rosie and not me. What President Bush has done is basically want to amend a document that does grant freedoms and for the first time exclude tax-paying Americans from it. Is it vile or vicious or unexpected? No, it's none of those things. I'm not shocked by any of this going on. He's in an election year. He needed a wedge issue. He was losing. He got his wedge issue. So I'm not surprised at any of this. I wouldn't vilify him as vile and vicious. However, he is misguided.
Well, how does it exclude anybody from anything? I mean, we already have the Defense of Marriage law on the books, which says that a marriage is between a man and a woman.
Well, and we should also take a look at the Defense of Marriage Act. It excludes people based solely on gender and denies them the equal protection guaranteed by the Constitution. You have an institution already in place in this country, marriage, which you are saying people cannot enter based on their gender. That, of course, is discrimination and falls under equal protection.
True.
Genevieve, let's ask you about that. Is it discriminating against people to say that same-sex couples can't marry?
Well, I mean, look, we discriminate against all sorts of people. We don't let people marry 3 people. We don't let a man marry 2 women or a woman marry 2 men, or we don't allow group marriages.
Okay, wait a minute, stop. Polygamy is not on the table here.
Well, yes, it will be. My friend, yes, it will be.
That's an invalid slippery slope argument.
That is so not true. Well, let me explain to you why. How would you write a law that only limits marriage to 2 people? I mean, why would it just be 2 people? You're discriminating against a group of people out there, and believe me, there are people who think polygamy is a good idea, who think group marriage is a good idea. Granted, they're a small minority, but they'll come forward and say, we have a right to get married too. You're discriminating against us.
When they come forward, you come back on Fox and you go against them. That's not the issue.
You come back on Fox and tell them why you would discriminate against them, because you're basing your entire thing on discrimination.
The issue here is whether or not a civil institution, marriage, which has nothing to do with religion, and the 2,000 rights granted therein are going to be denied a group of people based solely on gender. The Massachusetts Supreme Court says no. Okay.
Why would you deny it to polygamists? Why would you deny it to any other group of people who say it's a civil institution?
I am not entering that debate with you because it is an issue that is not on the table. So you're okay with polygamy too?
I am not going to give you
my position on an issue that we're not discussing. We are discussing gay and lesbian marriage, not polygamy. If you'd like to have another segment on polygamy, great.
Look, the American people understand that when you go out and you think about redefining the institution of marriage, you have to take the long-term view. This is not something we're just changing for today so that Rosie can make her statement or for tomorrow. We're talking about how this affects the culture and how it'll impact our laws 30 years from now. And the argument that you're making in a court of law would have to stand up for polygamists and anybody else who walked in and said they wanted to come up with a new definition of marriage. Based on what you're saying, there's absolutely no reason those people should be denied rights.
Were made against women's right to vote, were made against slavery, were made against any great social change in this country. They already scream slippery slope, slippery slope.
No.
This is an institution that already exists. It grants 2,000 rights to a man and a woman. It excludes monogamous couples that want to enter it based on gender. Those are the facts. If you'd like to argue those facts, then
I'm happy to argue with them. I'm happy to argue because you're saying we're discriminating based on gender, and I'm saying you're suggesting that we ought to discriminate based on numbers.
All
and
right.
why so?
I guess I have to have a role here and end this discussion. Karel and Genevieve Wood, it's always interesting getting you two together. Thanks very much
Sean,
for being with us.
Thank you.
And you've seen Rosie O'Donnell in San Francisco. You've probably heard her as well, talking about the president's support for a constitutional ban on same-sex marriages. Well, she and her partner, Kelly Carpenter, they flew out to San Francisco to tie the knot as the same-sex marriage issue is before a court in California today. Joining us now with more on this same-sex marriage debate is Karel, the author of You Can't Say That, and a San Francisco talk show host. And Paul McGuire is here as well, a syndicated radio talk show host. Welcome to both of you. And Karel, let me start with you. Anything you want to say to Rosie O'Donnell and her new wife, Kelly Carpenter?
Well, congratulations, but don't call her your wife yet because, as we know, in San Francisco, these licenses will be deemed illegal until the courts in California can figure out what exactly is legal and what is not. So congratulations on coming out in all of the press, but you're not legally married yet.
Paul, I know that you and your wife have actually written a book about marriage. So as an expert on the topic, what is the threat? And this was a question that was posed to the president a little bit earlier today. He didn't exactly answer it. What is the threat to married people like you, married people like me, if same-sex couples want to get marriage licenses?
Well, the first thing is I'm really disappointed in Rosie because I thought her heart belonged to Tom Cruise. But having said that, the big problem is this is about children. All the sociological studies show that the best thing for little children is to have a father and a mother, a male figure and a female figure. So what this is really all about is not politics, not Rosie O'Donnell. This is really about what's best for little children.
Well, if we're going to talk about little children, if we're going to talk about little children, then are you saying that infertile couples should not be issued marriage licenses because they're not able to reproduce and have children?
Well,
and what about the children? What about the children? What about the children? What about the children that are gay? What about the gay children?
A little girl, and a little boy. They need, ideally, all psychological studies have shown this. They need a mommy and a daddy. So let's not make this a political.
Look, Heather has two mommies. We know that came out in the 70s. Okay, this is not about
two mommies, but it's not good for Heather.
This is not about children.
Don't stand on the.
Let me jump in and raise a point, if you don't mind, gentlemen, because Karel we did hear from the president about one topic, and that is public opinion. The president said just moments ago that the public opinion, the voice of the public, really needs to be heard in this debate. And if you look at the polls, a great majority of people in this country do not want to see same-sex marriages. There are only a tiny number of people who do want them. Why should that tiny number have their way?
First of all, 45% isn't a tiny number. Second of all, I'm glad we don't rule by polls, because if that were true in the South, slavery would still be legal. If that were true, women would not have the right to vote yet.
Most African-American leaders object to the equation of gay rights versus black African-American civil rights.
Really? Coretta Scott King, the widow of Martin Luther King Jr.
The First American Methodist Church here
wait a minute. You brought up civil rights. Coretta Scott King speaks out every single time and says that her husband would join gays and lesbians today in their fight for human rights.
Most African Americans do not support that. Most African Americans
What does that have to do with the price of tea in Hong Kong? I don't care what
Paul McGuire, a question for you, sir. Is this the great issue of our time? I mean, you know what the Democrats are saying. Even some Republicans in Congress are asking, with everything else going on in the world, is same-sex marriage up there with the war on terror and the fight for jobs in our economy?
Yes, it is. This is the key pivotal issue of our time, because this is going to show the direction of our civilization. If we depart from 5,000 years of Western civilization, if we overturn 5,000 years of human history and recreate marriage,
before you idolize human history,
that are psychologically disturbed.
Before you idolize the past 5,000 years of human history, let's remember the atrocities that were once condoned, like Catholics burning Protestants. Look, I hope that we don't live by. I hope that we don't live by the rules of the past. I hope we're able, because we evolve. We evolve as human beings.
An asteroid almost hit planet Earth last week. What does that have to do with the gay marriage debate?
We evolve as human beings, and you're saying that this is the key issue of our time just shows how bizarre this debate has become. No, the key issues of our time.
Karel, you know I have a great deal of respect for you, but I think think you're wrong on this issue.
Well,
all right, well, we're going to have to let our viewers decide whether Karel is wrong or whether Paul is wrong. We've run out of time, gentlemen, but we appreciate the spirited debate. Karel and Paul McGuire, gentlemen,
thank you, Paul.
Thanks.
Thank you, Karel.